Hello everyone, and welcome to my Young and the Restless official 24 channel. Summer arrives in Paris with baby. Her son's biological father will leave you speechless, and the moment Summer Newman steps off the airplane. Cradling her invigorated in the city of light, everything about her history, her family, and her unborn collides in a way no bone could have prognosticated, because this isn't a glamorous escape or a debonair reset, it's a advised move born out of heartache, fear, and a verity so explosive it threatens to crump the entire Newman heritage. Paris should feel romantic, liberating, indeed mending, but for Summer, it's heavy with secrets, especially as she checks into a discreet luxury hostel, keeps her phone on silent, and avoids the ineluctable calls from Genoa City. The baby in her arms is calm, innocent, ignorant that her very actuality is about to rewrite everything Summer allowed she knew about herself, her mama, and the men who shaped her life. Summer didn't come to Paris to run down, she came to breathe, to suppose, and eventually, to decide how important verity she can survive telling. The whispers have formally started back home. Why Paris? Why now? Why with the baby? Nick is frantic, Phyllis is twisting, and Victor is suspicious in that dangerous way that means he's formerly 10 way ahead. But none of them are prepared for what Summer knows or for the 5 words she'll soon say that will leave everyone speechless. Because buried beneath times of falsehoods, half-trueness, and precisely maintained narratives is the stunner disclosure of her son's natural father, and the verity is far more complicated, more painful, and more shocking than anyone could imagine. Summer renewals every moment that led her then, the shattered relationship with Phyllis, the endless Newman power struggles, the backstabbings that forced her to grow up too presto. Getting a mama changed everything. Holding her son for the first time cracked commodity open inside her, a need for honesty that she could no longer ignore. Questions she formerly buried came roaring back, patterns that didn't make sense, recollections that felt deficient, and the troubling sense that she'd been defended from the verity her entire life. A discreet DNA test, meant to answer one quiet question, ended up unraveling everything. When the results came back, Summer felt the ground vanish beneath her bases. The name on that report didn't just surprise her, it shattered her. Suddenly, every commerce from the history took on new meaning. Every look, every argument, every moment of pressure that formerly felt arbitrary now felt ineluctable. And worse, it explained her mama's jest in a way that made Summer sick to her stomach. Phyllis hadn't just prevaricated, she had orchestrated an entire life around this secret. In Paris, down from the chaos, Summer eventually allows herself to feel the full weight of it. She remembers the way Phyllis always veered certain questions, the way she shocked whenever the history came up, the way she cleaved to control with white-knuckled despair. This wasn't just about guarding Summer, it was about guarding herself. The natural father of Summer's son is a man whose name carries power, history, and peril, a man deeply intertwined with the Newmans, the Abbotts, and the veritably wars that destroyed so numerous families. A man whose involvement changes how Summer sees her own birth. When Summer eventually speaks to Phyllis on the phone from Paris, the pressure is unsupportable. Phyllis hears it in her son's voice, incontinently the calm before desolation. Summer doesn't yell. She doesn't cry. She simply says she knows. Knows everything. And that's when Phyllis breaks. The concession spills out in fractions, defenses, pretenses, all unraveling under the weight of ineluctability. She admits that she allowed. She was doing the right thing, that she believed the verity would only bring pain, that she induced herself she could manage the fallout ever. But Summer doesn't want explanations presently. She wants data. She wants responsibility. And she wants to decide what kind of mama she's going to be, because she refuses to repeat Phyllis's miscalculations. When the moment eventually comes, when Summer stands on a Paris deck overlooking the megacity lights and whispers the verity to herself, it's ruinous in its simplicity. 5 words. That's all it takes. 5 words that review her son's future, her own identity, and the balance of power back in Genoa City. The natural father isn't just someone from the once, he's someone who still holds influence, someone who could claim a part in this child's life, someone whose response could enkindle a war. Summer realizes that revealing the verity won't just hurt passions, it'll redraw alliances, renew old injuries, and force competitions that have been avoided for decades. Nick will be torn between rage and heartache. Victor will see heritage, influence, and trouble all at formerly. Phyllis will face the ultimate consequence of her choices, losing her son's trust at the very moment Summer needs her most. And yet, despite the fear, Summer feels commodity unanticipated in Paris, clarity. She understands now that secretiveness is a bane, indeed when disguised as protection. She looks down at her son, skirmishes her bitsy fritters with her own, and makes an oath that echoes louder than any Newman boardroom showdown her child will grow up knowing the verity, no matter how uncomfortable, no matter who it angers. Paris isn't the end of the story, it's the morning of a reckoning. When Summer ultimately returns to Genoa City, baby in her arms and verity on her lips, nothing will be the same. The question isn't whether the verity will come out, it's who'll survive it, who'll be destroyed by it, and whether Summer can eventually break free from the heritage of falsehoods that defined her history. One thing is certain: once those 5 shocking words are spoken out loud, there will be no going back. The night air in Paris feels colder than it should, sharp enough to cut through Summer Newman's resoluteness as she stands on the deck, the soft gleam of the megacity shimmering beneath her like a living, breathing pledge of metamorphosis. Her son sleeps peacefully against her casket, unconscious to the emotional earthquake brewing inside her mama's heart, ignorant that her actuality has formerly come the most important armament in a war that has indeed begun. Summer watches the distant Eiffel Tower sparkle like a silent substantiation, a symbol of love turned into a background for disclosure, and she realizes this moment will divide her life into ahead and later. Before the verity. After the verity. There's no turning back now. She renewals those 5 words again in her mind, the words she hasn't yet said out loud but that have formally changed everything: he's her real father. Simple. Ruinous. Necessary. Those words carry the weight of generations, the echo of backstabbings, the power to collapse conglomerates erected on deception. Summer no way imagined fatherhood would make her braver, but then she stands, stronger than she's ever been, because love has a way of forcing honesty where fear formerly ruled. Her phone vibrates again, lighting up with another missed call from Nick. She doesn't answer. Not yet. She can't hear his voice until she's ready to say the name. The name that reshapes every relationship she allowed. She understood. Nick has always been her anchor, her protection, the steady presence when Phyllis's chaos felt unsupportable. But this verity will tear him piecemeal. Summer knows that. And yet, she knows commodity differently too. Silence would destroy him indeed more. Back in Genoa City, the ripple goods of Summer's exposure have formally begun. Phyllis paces the bottom of her living room, every step echoing the sound of her own unraveling. She knows Summer didn't leave for rest. She knows her son wouldn't evaporate without a reason. Phyllis feels it in her bones, the kind of instinct only a mama with too numerous secrets can fate. The verity is coming, and no quantum of strategy, charm, or manipulation can stop it. Kane Ashby sits across from her, watching still, his expression undecipherable. He sees what Phyllis refuses to admit: this isn't just about commercial warfare presently. This is particular. This is heritage. This is consequence. Kane has lost children before, not physically, but emotionally, and he recognizes the same fracture forming in Phyllis's world. He warns her again, gently this time, that some palms bring further than their worth. But Phyllis doesn't want wisdom. She wants control. And control is slipping through her fritters like beach. Meanwhile, Victor Newman senses the shift long before anyone says a word. He spent a continuance prognosticating storms before the first pall appears. When Summer leaves city suddenly with her baby, Victor doesn't see escape, he sees strategy. He orders quiet inquiries, discreet shadowing, subtle pressure on connections in Paris. Victor doesn't chase information. He processes it. And the whispers that reach him are enough to spark dubitation: DNA tests, non-public conventions, emotional phone calls. Victor doesn't yet know the verity, but he knows commodity monumental is coming. Commodity with the power to rewrite the Newman dynasty. In Paris, Summer eventually sits down, rocking her son gently as dawn begins to break across the skyline. The megacity shifts from riddle to morning, from secretiveness to ineluctability. This is the hour of concession, the moment she promised herself she wouldn't defer any longer. She dials Nick's number, her hands pulsing only slightly. Nick answers incontinently, relief submerging his voice. Summer. Thank God. Where are you? Paris, she says vocally. There's a pause, 1,000 questions forming on his lips, but he senses commodity deeper, commodity heavier. Are you okay? No, she replies actually. But I'll be. Nick waits, case, bracing himself. Summer closes her eyes, draws in a breath, and says it. Not the name yet, just the prelude. I set about who her father is. Silence stretches across the ocean between them. Nick's breath catches, his mind racing. Summer, what do you mean? I mean biologically, she says. Phyllis eventually told me the verity. Nick quaffs hard. Who? Summer hesitates, feeling the weight of history pressing down on her casket. She looks at her son, skirmishes a kiss across her bitsy forepart, and whispers the name. The name that detonates everything. Nick doesn't speak for several seconds. When he eventually does, his voice is coarse, shattered, slightly recognizable. That's insolvable. I allowed. So too, Summer says still. But the DNA doesn't lie. Nick hangs up shortly after, not in wrathfulness, but in shock. He needs space to reuse what no parent should ever have to absorb. And Summer understands. Some trueness don't demand immediate response, they demand survival. Across city, Victor receives the same name moments laterally from his own sources. He doesn't reply outwardly. He simply leans back in his president, steeples his fritters, and lets the counter-accusations unfold in his mind. Heritage. Trouble. Occasion. Victor doesn't see children, he sees chess pieces shaped by pedigrees. And this disclosure has just introduced a new player with unconceivable influence. Phyllis learns the verity last. Summer doesn't call her. She doesn't need to. Phyllis hears it through Nick's silence, through Victor's unforeseen intensity, through the shifting energy of a city that thrives on rumored reproach. When Kane confirms the name gently, like a croaker, delivering a terminal opinion, Phyllis collapses onto the settee, her confidence eventually cracking. She no way intended for it to go this far. She no way anticipated the secret to escape her control. But secrets have a way of surviving longer than fidelity, and exploding louder than verity. Days pass in Paris, each one a admixture of serenity and dread for Summer. She takes her son on quiet walks along the Seine, watches road musicians play lullabies that feel like pledges, and allows herself moments of peace before the storm. But every calm second is visited by what awaits her back home. Genoa City isn't just a place, it's a battleground fueled by memory, pride, and undetermined vendettas. And when she returns, she won't just be bringing a baby. She'll be bringing a reckoning. Ultimately, the call comes from Victor. Summer, he says, his tone measured but unmistakably violent. We need to talk. She doesn't mock not to know what this is about. I figured. When are you coming home? Soon, she answers. When I'm ready. Victor felicitations that answer further than any defiance. Take the time you need, he says. But understand this, formerly you step back into Genoa City, the verity will no longer belong only to you. Summer nods sluggishly, indeed though he can't see it. I know. After the call ends, Summer gapes out at the Paris skyline one last time. This megacity gave her clarity, courage, and distance. But distance can only last so long. Fortune doesn't stay ever. She packs her bags, tucks her sleeping son into her arms, and whispers vocally, it's time. Back in Genoa City, expectation builds like electricity before lightning strikes. Rumors spread. Alliances shift. Old adversaries edge their shanks. Everyone senses that Summer Newman's return will be further than a homecoming. It will be a disclosure that fractures commitment and reshapes power ever. And when she eventually walks through the doors of the Newman manse stays latterly, baby in her arms, eyes steady, expression resolute, every discussion stops. Every aspect turns toward her. The air becomes heavy with anticipation. She doesn't vacillate. She doesn't cube. She doesn't soften the blow. She looks directly at the man whose name changed everything, and says the 5 words audibly for the first time. "You're her real father." Gasps erupt. Silence follows. And in that moment, the future of Genoa City is rewritten ever. Summer doesn't sleep. She sits in the quiet hostel room with her son nestled against her casket, hearkening to the soft meter of the baby's breathing and letting the reality of what comes next settle in. The 5 words keep replaying in her head like a ticking timepiece, each alternate bringing her near to a moment she can't undo. She knows that formerly she speaks them out loud, not just to herself, but to the people whose lives will be shattered by them. The fragile pause she sculpted out in Paris will evaporate. There will be no further distance, no further silence, no further pretending this verity can stay contained within the walls of a foreign megacity. And yet, for the first time in her life, Summer feels bent. Not intrepid but resolved. Motherhood has stripped down her capability to explain falsehoods. Every reason Phyllis ever made now sounds concave when counted against the Bitsy life depending on her. Summer thinks about the innumerous times she defended her mama, the times she prayed others to understand Phyllis's chaos, her freakishness, her need to win at all costs. She used to believe love meant remission without limits. Now she understands that real love occasionally means drawing a line so sharp it hurts to stand on either side of it. Her phone buzzes on the nightstand again. Missed calls. Dispatches piling up. Nick's solicitude bleeds through the screen indeed without reading the words. Victor's silence is ever louder, calculated, portentous, as if he formerly senses commodity monumental has shifted. Summer ignores them all. This moment belongs to her and her son. She moves sluggishly, hysterical that any unforeseen stir might break the fragile calm she's managed to produce. The baby stirs, dark eyes fluttering open, and Summer feels that familiar swell of emotion, love so fierce it nearly hurts. This child didn't ask to be born into secrets, vendettas, and heritage wars. She deserves a life defined by honesty, indeed if that honesty detonates everything around them. Summer remembers the exact alternate the DNA results appeared on her phone. She had been alone, pacing her living room back home, telling herself it was just curiosity, that it didn't mean anything. She told herself she was being ridiculous. And also she saw the name. Not a foreigner. Not an arbitrary figure from the history. Someone woven so deeply into the fabric of her life that the verity felt insolvable and ineluctable all at formerly. Her first instinct had been denial, a visceral, gut position rejection. The second was wrathfulness. Not just at Phyllis, but at herself for no way pushing harder, for accepting answers that no way relatively made sense. The third was grief. Grief for the interpretation of her life she allowed. She understood. Grief for the family dynamics that would no way be simple again. And eventually, there was clarity. A sharp, painful clarity that told her she couldn't, would not, raise her son in the shadow of another precisely constructed taradiddle. Paris becomes her cocoon, a place where she can rehearse the verity in her mind before unleashing it on the world. She imagines telling Nick first, watches his face harden with shock, sees the pain flicker behind his eyes as he realizes how deeply this secret cuts. She imagines Victor's response, the calculating pause, the immediate assessment of damage and occasion, the nipping way he'll see her son not just as a child, but as a piece on a chessboard. That study makes Summer's stomach twist. She wouldn't allow that. She wouldn't allow anyone to turn her baby into influence. And also there's Phyllis. The battle she dreads most. Summer knows her mama will cry, will justify, will contend it was each done out of love. And perhaps part of it was. But love doesn't reason manipulation. Love doesn't justify rewriting someone's reality without their concurrence. As the day wears on, Summer gambles out with the baby for the first time, blending into the Parisian thoroughfares, just another woman pushing a stroller beneath major sundecks and flowering window boxes. Non-natives smile at her son, ignorant of the storm gathering just beyond the horizon. For many precious hours, Summer feels normal. Anonymous. Untethered from the weight of her last name. But indeed, as she sips coffee at a quiet cafe, her studies helical forward. She knows the verity won't stay buried. Too numerous people are circling. Too numerous dockets are formerly in stir back home. However, someone differently will, if she doesn't control the narrative. And that someone differently won't be guided by love or heart. That night, alone again in the hostel room, Summer eventually records a communication she's been avoiding. Not to shoot, just to exercise. Her voice shakes at first, also steadies as the words take shape. She doesn't name names yet. She doesn't need to. She simply states that the verity is coming, that the falsehoods are over, that she's done guarding everyone differently.